What's going on, everybody? Listen, I'm so happy. I'm so happy that I got my coach, the guy who got me started in personal development, and his name is Kendall Ficklin. This man has made an impact on my life like you have no idea. I mean, the reason you're listening to this podcast is basically because of his direction, because of his coaching, because of his focus in my life. He's an amazing father to begin with. He's a great husband. And I know because I've met his children and I've met his wife. He's the CEO of Kendall Ficklin and Associates, and he is the head coach of Grindation. Now, Grindation it means it's the foundation of your grind. And that is split into two, right? So there's the G Men Worldwide and G Women Worldwide, and you can find them both on Instagram. I really, really suggest that you reach out to these two groups if you're thinking of becoming the best version of yourself, because I am definitely becoming the best version of myself because I'm part of this community. He's also a personal development coach. He's a business coach, and he's a keynote speaker. He speaks to corporate America, to the NBA, to the NFL on a regular basis. He's a sought-out speaker. But that's now. His story has a very different beginning. His rise from obscurity has been an uphill battle every way. But the one thing that I've noticed in hearing his story and knowing him for 3 years now, going on 4, is his hunger, right? He always had a hunger to be the best version of himself. He failed a bunch of times, but then he got with people who wanted the best for him, that gave him the real direction that he needed to become the best version of himself. So what did he do with that? He immediately created a community that he could share that with. So as you listen into this episode, you will be impacted. Your life will never be the same. You will become the best version, or want to become the best version of yourself, as you listen to his story, as you listen to his philosophies, which I met him about 3 years ago. And I was just starting off. I was looking for direction in life, and I was about 43 years old. So yes, life can start in your mid-40s. So listen, enjoy this episode. Stay to the end. He's got a great message at the end. His mindset is like no other. Listen, enjoy, be impacted, and thank you. And you're gonna thank me. I really want to hear your reviews. Follow me on Instagram at Beyond Willpower Podcast. When I post this, because I'm posting it real soon, I really want feedback from all of you. So, enjoy this episode. I love doing it, and you're going to love him. So, without further ado, here we go. Coach K, as we like to call him, Coach Kendall Ficklin. All right, so guys, welcome back to another episode, to my favorite episode up to date, with the incomparable Coach Kendall Ficklin. Welcome to the podcast, Coach K.
Great grind day, Gino. Man, I'm excited to be here, honored and humbled anytime I get an opportunity to jump on and share with such a fine young man such as yourself. And it's just an honor just to be in your presence.
Ooh, all right, you're trying to make me sweat now. Because the honor is definitely all mine, man. So listen, I love to start my podcast with a question that I stole from one of my favorite podcasters. And that is, what is your superhero origin story, right? Because most superheroes have a torrid, a messed up beginning, a dark beginning. What is your superhero origin story?
Yeah. So, we say origin, but for me, it started back in 2011, 10 or 11. And it was during that time when, my drinking was heavy. I was really in a state of depression. I didn't say I wanted to kill myself, but I really didn't care. And I was sick. I was about 200 pounds, and I had dropped down to 149. And I can remember talking to my dude, and he was in Florida at the time. And I hadn't seen him in a minute. He was like, I'm gonna come down to Atlanta and check on you, because my wife was telling him I wasn't well. I was drinking too much and smoking too much. And he had come down, and when he saw me, like, you could see the tears well up in his eyes, I looked that sick. Like, and I've been knowing him for 40 years. And it was also during that time, I had this lump up under my chin, and I knew something was wrong. I just didn't know what. And I really didn't care. I just drank more, was still running my business, but, you know, just not caring. And then I remember one day I fell in the bathroom and I couldn't get up. And, you know, that's difficult. Like, you're a grown man and you fall and you can't get up on your own. And my wife came in and she helped me up, and, you know, I started crying because I knew that everything was coming to a head. Like, you know, the drinking, the being sick, the, you know, getting dizzy and not being able to cut and things like that. And, you know, I finally went to the doctor. And the doctor, after doing a cursory exam, he said, well, it looks like you got lymphoma. And I was like, what's that? He was like, it's a form of cancer. And I was like, I wasn't even surprised, to be honest with you. It didn't even faze me in the least. All I kept saying in my head was, I'm not doing no chemo. And, you know, he was like, I want to go do a biopsy on the tumor. It looks like a tumor up under your chin. And went and did the biopsy and came back to do the results. And he said it took him an hour. So my wife and I were waiting in the office for him for about an hour to come back. And it was during that time. And it's amazing the things you can unravel, the things that can happen, the miracles that can take place in a short span of time. But it was in that hour, as I was sitting there with my wife, and she was just crying. And I was like, babe, it's going to be all right. Like, you know, I'm good. I'm telling her I'm good. But in my own head, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a rough one. Because in my head, I had already checked out. I had already said, you know what? I know it's cancer. It's just my time. Like, and I wasn't even tripping. I was feeling bad because, you know, I felt I was young. I didn't have that moment, you know, Lord, if you just remove this from me. I didn't have that moment. But in my wife's tears, while she was crying, she had said to me, I can't lose you right now. And I'm like, what you talking about? What make you think you're going to lose me? She said, I can't lose you. She said, I need you too much. And that hit me. You know, I knew she loved me and I knew she needed me. And then the other thing was, like, after the first time I had gone to the doctor, everybody in my family was treating me different. They were, you know, paying a little bit more attention to me because they knew that I might have had cancer. You know, you can really, people, when they really love you, they will share that expression of love when it's like he might not be here next year, you know, or he's getting sick. And so my wife said, I need you. And she said, the kids need you. And she said, your mother needs you. And she just started sharing these different things with me. And it was at that moment where I was like, wow. And here's what's crazy, Gino. And I don't know what it was. I didn't think I was going to die. Like, I just kind of believed that I was going to be good, even with the cancer. But it was at that moment when I said, I'm done. Like, that shifted me. The need of my family needing me shifted my whole mindset, and me knowing they needed me. Now, you know, like I said, when I found that I was sick and they knew I was sick, they kind of, you know, paid a little bit more attention to me, was doting on me a little bit more, loving on me a little bit more. And it kind of helped me to see how much they needed me. And, but it was in that doctor's office at that moment when I said to myself, I'm done with the bottle. Like, it's a wrap. I said to myself, I'm not picking up another cigarette. It's a wrap. Regardless of what this doctor comes in here and says, I'm going to be here long enough to give my family the things that I needed to give them. And it was that day when I made a decision to change my life. It was that day when I learned how to fly. So you asked me what my superhero moment was. It was that day when I knew I could fly. And I tried to take off for the first time and I fell, but I got back up and kept on. It was that day, that moment when I knew that I could walk through a steel. It was that day when I knew I had X-ray vision. And that superhero moment was born. Now, here's the crazy thing. Even superheroes, when they know that they have a superpower, until they know how to fully use it, it's not really super, it's just a power. So I was watching Wonder Woman a few weeks ago on the HBO. And, you know, when she was on the island with the Amazons, with the other women, she was just a regular warrior, right? She had the bracelets, whatever. But it wasn't until she was actually training in combat with the captain where something happened and she like put her bracelets together and the whole hookup went crazy. She didn't know how to control her power. She didn't know how powerful her superpower was. Then she went out and she went into the world and she started working and doing good and helping people out. And then as I watched the whole movie coming to the end, Gino, it was at the end where she was writing in her notebook and she just got up from the desk and jumped out the window and started flying. Now, she didn't know she could fly before, but it was a series of circumstances and going through times where she had to learn how to use her superpowers. And so my superhero experience turned into me knowing that I had power, but then every single day exercising those superpowers. And for me, like the biggest superpower was discipline and love. Like knowing that the power of love is what really saved my life. Them loving me more than at that time, me loving myself. And so now I walk in that superpower every day, love. And I'm flying with love. You know what I mean? I'm a superhero with love. And so with my family, you know, we just took my wife off her job in January and we were in Jamaica. And, you know, we were sitting at the table eating dinner. And I told her, you know, because she's doing some stuff in the business. And I told her, you ain't got to do nothing if you don't want to. You don't have to ever go back and work a day in your life. Because I remember that time when I was in the doctor's office and you said, I need you too much to lose you right now. And because you needed me then and you saved my life then, I'm going to make sure your life is as comfortable as it can possibly be.
That has to be the number one answer that I have received, the most powerful answer that I've received to that question to this day. And I expect no less. I mean, I know who I'm talking to right here, right?
Yeah, and be careful because you know I run this thing all the way.
We will.
Oh yeah, you and me both.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I know that we think a lot alike because you literally answered 3 questions that I had separated, but you answered them. I thankfully you answered them within that one question. But I know that the one thing that hasn't changed in your life since before you were Coach K is the hunger inside of you that led you to always be in search of a father figure, mentor. What did you discover in that search for you?
So one of the things I discovered is you never stop looking to better your best. So even though I'm constantly working to be my best self, I'm constantly working to put myself around the best people, the best mentors, so that I can learn and grow from the best. And to be honest, there's nobody that's perfect and has it all. And so I'm constantly looking to put myself around what for this season in my life, right? So life is about seasons. I'm in a very, very different season right now. And I'm looking for specific superpowers in my life. I'm looking for specific people that can give me specific information and insight in my life right now. And so what I'm making sure that I do is align myself in the right environments where these people are, where these mentors are. And so one of the things I learned about myself is don't ever stop. Like, matter of fact, I did an interview today and somebody asked me, it's crazy, you know, he's like, when is it gonna all be over for you? Like, when are you gonna be done? I was like, when they put that first dirt up on the grave, like after they put me in the ground and put that first shovel of dirt,
then you call it.
It's a wrap.
Then
like,
you call
it. That point is done. But up until that point, I'm gonna go until the wheels fall off, until I check out of here. Like, I don't believe in retirement. So what I've learned is you never stop growing. The only time you stop is when you're dead. And so you have to consistently, daily, every hour, look and learn to grow and be your best self and put yourself in an environment of people that are better than you.
That's exactly what I did when I joined Grindation and the G-Man, which you have created. So I want to speak about two people that I know for a fact have made an impact in your life very shortly, though, so we can go on. But I know that Dr. Eric Thomas and CJ in particular
Mm-hmm.
changed your philosophy of how you dealt with things. Can you give us two things that literally changed because of these two specific people? What philosophy changed from what, from then, from before you knew them to after you knew them?
Yeah. So for CJ, I sat with CJ for 2 years for 1 hour a day, every Wednesday at 11 o'clock, 2 years straight, every Wednesday at 11 o'clock in his office. The one thing that I learned, he exposed me to a whole, I'm gonna say it like this, he changed my circle of influence. Now I'd been around powerful people before, but I had never gotten behind the door, like in. And what he did for me was he allowed me not just a seat at the table, but he actually allowed me to get a slice of the pie. And that changed my perspective. And so Inky always says, perspective improves performance. And so when he changed my perspective, it improved my performance, my perspective on business. I would go to CJ's house and I would see him praying with his wife and his family. He changed my perspective, right? I used to walk with some preachers and I didn't see them doing that. And then once I got with CJ he handed me off to E to walk with E and serve E and be that helper for him. E showed me the way a man really should treat his wife. His servanthood when it comes to his wife, bar none, I've never seen anything like that. And so he really, before he serves inside before he does anything outside. And I've seen him serve his wife and told him one day, I was like, yo, I need you to you need to share this servanthood with the world that you do for your wife. Bro, I've seen him climb a fence to get to the wife because we were stuck in traffic. He was like, don't worry about it, I'm gonna jump over this fence and get inside the hotel and take his sneakers off and jump the fence. And so servanthood and really being relational with people. And that changed the whole game for me because I had, before that, I had a one-track mindset because of the environment I was in. And so for all of your listeners that are listening, remember you're going to be a product of your environment. An environment is not just the physical space, but it's also the people that you put yourself around. So you always want to put yourself around powerful, positive people that will push you into your passion and your purpose.
It's a lot of P's right there.
A lot of P's right there.
A lot of P's right there. Thank you for that. Yeah, I'm going to use that. So you started way back. You started something called Men Exchange, if I'm not mistaken, right? So, and I know it's something new now, but take us to why were you compelled to specifically help fellow men become the next level of them?
So here's what's crazy. I don't know if you heard me say this before. Back in it was 1990 to be specific. I had found a notebook in the 2000s at some point, and I had wrote in this notebook in 1990, start a men's group and help men. In 1990, I graduated high school in 86. I was 17 years old. I was 17 or 18. So you're talking about 4 years. I was 20-something years old. Started a men's group. So I saw that in the 90s. And if you look at my bookshelf from the 90s all the way up until now, I have more books about manhood than anything, right? And so I couldn't tell you what propelled me. It's something that's always been in me. I went to see a therapist the other day, right? And he asked me, he said, tell me about your experience from 0 to 12. Tell me about your relationship with your parents. So I started talking, and some things came out. And one thing I said to him was, my father was an alcoholic, but then I don't even know where this came from, Gino. I said, I remember a specific instance where my mother was really just berating my father, and it angered me. It ticked me off. It made me mad. I remember certain instances where my uncles ex-wife used to berate him and used to tick me off, right? I always wanted to see a man be a man. I don't know what it is. Like, I was born with this. And so I remember this one particular time my dad had gotten upset with my mother and he slammed the beer on the counter. And I felt good because he stood up to her. I'm talking about 5 or 6 years old, maybe. I felt good because I saw him stand up to her. I remember seeing my uncle stand up to his ex-wife. I just love seeing, and I always want to help men be men. Now, it wasn't because I had, these great men in my life, but I have had some great men in my life. I've always been drawn to it. So from the 90s, when I always wanted to do it, into the 2000s, when I had an opportunity to do it with Men Exchange. And we started Men Exchange from the barbershop. And I did it with 2 other brothers. And it was phenomenal. But, sometimes when you're doing things with people, things happen. And so we kind of broke up. But people and guys would always hit me up and say, they used to call me X. X, when you going to start up Men Exchange again? When you going to start it back up? Now, all my barbershops were named Men Exchange. All the shops, Men Exchange. And so they were like, when you going to start it back up? And a couple of times I started back up, but I didn't have the consistency or the discipline. And Gino, here's the thing. My own personal life wasn't together. And so Alfred would be the one to always call me and say, when you going to start it? When you going to start it? When you going to start it? One day I said, bro, stop asking me. And then he just kind of pushed it out of me and I started it. And I'm going to be honest, the day before I started pushing G-Men, I was on the phone with Kristen, and I was like, I don't even know if I want to do this because, working with men and you know how they are and blah, blah, blah. And she said something, and I'm going to paraphrase. She said, if you don't do it, you'll never be able to have a peaceful life because there are men out there that need what you have. And then it was at that point when I realized I had to do it. But then even bigger than that, Gino, and I think this is where a lot of us miss it. I didn't start it and for me to just try and own it and be that guy. I started it and we created a platform and I was looking for talented men to take the reins because what I never wanted to be is only about me. It's about the brotherhood, each brother being able to help one another. So it's always been in me. Like for you, what you're doing now has always been in you, but something was always blocking it. And now, what they say, the scales have been removed from your eyes, or the debris has been lifted from you, and now you're walking in your gift. You're walking in your one of your purposes. And when you're doing that, like you're doing it effortlessly. You're doing a phenomenal job walking in this gift. And so for me, I'm doing what I've really been born to do, and not really knowing how. But when you're doing what you've been born to do, you already have the talent and all the tools and resources you need to do it.
Man, I knew I was going to love this episode, man. So you created this thing called Grindation. Mm-hmm. Now, I used to say it wrong. Grindation. Right. So it's Grindation. And what does Grindation actually stand for?
Bruh, it was September 2000 and I don't even remember, 2014 or 15. I was speaking to a group of students. And you ever play a sport? I used to play basketball. When you get hot, excuse me, and every shot you throw up goes in. It was one of those days when I was speaking. Everything coming out of my mouth was sweet. And bruh, I said grindation. I said grindation. And I was like, what that mean? I'm like, okay, grindation, what that mean? And so I said it again in the talk. And then I said what it meant. And I promise you, hadn't thought about it before. And I said grindation, it's the foundation of your grind. So the Asian is from the word foundation. So a lot of people call it grindation. It's grindation. And so it literally means the foundation of your grind. And the crazy thing is, I remember I was talking to a person that we both know, and they were one of the first members to come into Grindation. And I was on the phone with him. I'm giving the sales pitch and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, and we because he wanted one-on-one coaching. And I was like, yeah, and I got a community. It's called Grindation. I hadn't had it. It wasn't put together. And I was like, look, Gino, and I said, we got a Facebook page. I hadn't even made a Facebook page. I was like, we do weekly calls. There wasn't no members to do a weekly call with. And he was like, man, that's going to be great. Send me the link. And then I got on the phone the next day with somebody else. Grindation, same thing. And then I just proceeded to put everything together that I already told them I had.
Yeah, I mean, hey, execution, right?
Execution is worship.
Execution is worship, man. So I know this next question might even make me emotional, but I know what legacy means to you, right? And the year before last, during Grindfest, right? During Grindfest, you were celebrated by your children. Mm-hmm. And that impacted me greatly. The fact that the history that you have, the negative history, let's talk about, right? Mm-hmm. That you had, yet you came full circle, not even full circle, you went like 180. And now we're being celebrated as opposed to discarded. What is next in your legacy that you want to leave behind after?
Yeah, so I want to make sure right now. So we're building a business. And in that business, we have multiple businesses. And so I have the kids, my children, working in different aspects of the business. And so my goal and objective that when I'm gone, you know, you've heard me say this, I always say, I want them to get a picture of me, a big picture, and put it up over their mantle. Just me, I don't want nobody else in the picture. And at the bottom of the picture, I just wanted to say, Pop did that. So the great. But yeah, no, I want them, when I leave, I want to leave with them a foundation and a structure in place that they can continue to build on and work on, to where from a financial perspective, there isn't a need, but that they can supply people's needs. I want to leave a mentality of MCI, and MCI means moral, character, and integrity. I want to leave with them this notion of adversity and knowing how to overcome it. I want to leave with them the understanding of how to build, reconcile, and develop relationships. I want to be the example. And, you know, most people don't know this, and I'll say it, bro, and be real. People tell me, Kendall, you inspire me, man. You just, how do you do it, blah, blah. And y'all don't know. I'm doing it because other people are inspiring me to keep going, to do what other people aren't willing to do, to live a life of character and integrity. Like, I'm living this life and looking to be an example because I know it's helping other people. That's it. Like, if I didn't have, like my wife said in the beginning, we're counting on you. And because most people don't have that why, that reason that's more important and more powerful than their why not, their reason for not doing something. If it wasn't for y'all, if it wasn't for the people that I'm making an impact in their life, who knows what I would be doing. But I wake up every day not saying what do I need to do, but saying who do I need to be.
Awesome, man. That's a great way to think. And I've caught on to your vibe ever since I met you, and I've followed your flow and your philosophies in life, because I didn't really have a philosophy except for just surviving. So you said that you have children working in different parts of the business. What are what are the programs that you have available now that you have going on a regular basis? Before I ask you the last couple of questions.
Yeah, so I'm sitting in my office and I'm looking on the whiteboard, and I had a meeting last week and I had to do this diagram. Like, I had to do this flow chart with all the different businesses and programs. And so it's two things. When I say we have multiple businesses, we literally have multiple businesses. So Grindation is a company, right? So within Grindation, we do personal development, group coaching, and business development. We have Boss, which is the business of speaking and coaching, where we train speakers and coaches on the business behind the business, and that is evolving and turning into a great thing. We've also have the BMC, which is the Boss Masters Circle, which is a community of speakers, coaches, and consultants. And what we do there is we help the continuing education, providing the support, the training, the actual coaching to keep coaches and speakers going and moving. We just kicked off our Welcome to the Jungle certification class and Welcome to the Jungle is our version of the disc, where we overlay animals on that. I have the EMG that is rolling out in May 17th and 18th. It's brand new. You haven't even heard it yet. It's the EMG, the Elite Mastermind Group. And we're coming to actually Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I've got an Airbnb for a couple of days, bringing people in. We've got 20 people coming so far, and then bringing some of the people in my network. But that is about life and business. So we're going to have some life experiences. We're going to be able to do some different things there to make so for people to make connections and grow. Those are the programs and services. From a business perspective, we have G Real Estate, where we're doing real estate. We're doing wholesale in Atlanta, and we're doing buying holds in Chicago. We have G Trucking, where we're doing trucking. Yeah, G Trucking, rolling out the trucking piece. I have the G Agency that I'm rebuilding as we speak. I just hired 4 or 5 people for that staff, building it back from scratch. That's the G Agency, and the G Agency works with speakers, coaches, and consultants, and provides speaking services, lead generation, administration, HR, and booking. And then we have, it's a lot. G Travel, my wife does that. And then that's all the G stuff. And then of course we have Brand KF. And for me personally, I speak, coach, and consult. Whew, that's a lot.
Oof. Well, you know what? It's better to have more than to have less, brother.
Oh yeah. All those G's came from one G.
It came from that one G.
From that one G.
So now that you mentioned all those things, where can the listeners or the viewers, once I put this up on YouTube, where can they get a hold of all this information so they can get a hold of you, the G, Grindation, Welcome to the Jungle, Boss? Like, if they're interested, where can they reach out and find you?
So I tell everybody, man, and this is like, I don't do it to be funny. I went to the FBI and spoke, and a couple of people in the audience was like, how can I get in touch with you? I was like, Google me. And I had to explain what that means. Back in 2009, I caught a DUI. And in 2009, 2010, and maybe some of 2011, if you put my name in Google, one of the first things that came up on that first or second page was mugshot, or, some negative information about me. And so now, I like to say I've let my good deeds outweigh my bad. So over a period of time, all of the good, all of the positive that I've done has pushed that negative Google all the way down into, I don't know what page it's on, but I know it's not in the first 10. So if they can Google me at Kendall, Kendall, Ficklin, F as in Frank, Icklin, N as in Nancy. And if they don't want to Google, they can go to kendallficklin.com. All of my contact information, all of the programs, products, and services, you can get to that from my website.
All right, cool. So I got one more question, and yep. I got something that I want you to say. So the next question is, what is your definition of beyond willpower?
Oh, that's when, I'm gonna be honest with you, G. That's when you're at that point, like you get to a point where you got to kick it into like 5th gear. So you go all the way up to 5th gear, and in that 5th gear is sheer will. Like 5th gear, will. Beyond will is 6th and 7th gear. That means you going into a zone that you've never been into. So picture this. Picture a mountain, right? And picture somebody climbing a mountain. And as you're climbing that mountain, your knees, they're getting scraped up, scratched up, your hands, because you get halfway up the mountain, it's a steep mountain. But at the top is everything that you ever wanted. At the top is everything that you've ever dreamed of. The goal is to get to the top. Now, as you're climbing, you want to quit. You're climbing the mountain, you're going through challenges, right? You're going through adversities, right? Then you start to get some obstacles, right? And you get to a point where resiliency has to kick in, overcoming adversity has to kick in, and then you'll get to a point in the mountain where willpower has to kick in. And usually the willpower kicks in when you get a little bit closer to the top. But then as you get past that willpower part, there's another gear that you got to kick into that is beyond willpower. It's beyond that place where you've ever been. I like to say it's in that twilight zone area where athletes go. When you get into a whole nother zone, you have kicked it into a whole nother gear. And that's when you got to go beyond willpower just to get to the top. And it's right there at the top. But you're so exhausted. It happened to me this morning. When my trainer came through, he was training us. And I'm like, it got to the point. We 30 minutes in. I'm like, Alfred, we good. We done. That's it. He had us doing stuff. I was like, no. And I got to the point where willpower kicked in. Then I got to the beyond willpower. And I was able to finish out strong. And so you get to that mountain and you almost at the top. And beyond willpower got to kick in. And it kicks in. And you get to the top. Now think about this. You get to the top and you look down. Everything that you learned, you didn't learn at the top of the mountain. You learned on the way up. And you learned the most when you went into 6th and 7th gear, beyond the willpower. Because it was in beyond willpower where you learn more about yourself than at any other point in your life.
Absolutely. Second best response I've received. The first was my own. we're gonna pass that one. All right. So I have my guests think for a second. So there's somebody listening right now who needs a word from you. I don't know who it is. You don't know who it is. But there's a small 30 to 60-second message inside of you that can be like evergreen, right? That anyone who's listening can actually take. If they didn't get nothing else from this episode, this 30 to 60-second something that you have for them, they can go away and they can live happily ever after and accomplish something and do something or whatever it is that's in your heart.
Yeah, be the miracle. Be the miracle. Most of us, we go through challenges, life, adversities, and we'll pray, and we're looking for a miracle. And what I want to say to everybody that's listening, you are a miracle. All of us that are here, we're miracles. There was 1 in 2 trillion or 400 trillion chances of us being here in that birthing process. And we're a miracle. It's a miracle that we're here. And so what I want you guys to do is recognize that you're a miracle and just be yourself. Is it going to be hard? Yes. Let me encourage you. It's going to be hard as hell. Yes. Let me encourage you. You're going to feel like you want to quit, but you got to let beyond willpower kick in. And when you let the beyond willpower kick in, the miracle that's inside of you can show its head. Now, here's the crazy thing. When you let your miracle come out, you will then be a miracle for somebody else, and you teach them how to be a miracle. But you are a miracle. Go out and be who you're supposed to be.
Amen. I speak a lot about reciprocity, and that's it right there. What do we give back for all that we get in life, right? So the gratitude check that most people forget about, they say, well, what's in it for me? And I always ask, what can I do? That's just my thing. What can I do? How can I serve?
Yep.
You know, and thank you for that. And listen, man, thank you, first of all, for using your superpowers for good. First of all, for going outside of your comfort zone and reaching out to me, right? When I reached out to you, you reached back. That you had the forethought of taking other men with you up to the top. Because I am where I am today, a good part of it is because of Kendall Ficklin. And because of the reach out that we had, on Instagram. And people say social media doesn't work, please. Right? I am because of social media, man. Yeah. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I hope to have you on again for a celebratory, I don't know how to say the word, for a celebration. Celebratory.
I got that word. That word I knew how to say.
You got me on that. So a celebratory episode of, my 30th episode, which is 10 episodes from now, and see where we're both at, right? Because you're always growing. I'm always trying to grow. And I know that we're going to be so far ahead of the game that it's going to require a whole different episode of the next evolution of Kendall Ficklin and Associates and the Kendall Ficklin family. Because I would love to do a family episode, but let's not even get into that. That's gonna be a lot of heartstrings right there. Thank you once again. And I'm here to serve. You know that. For those listening, I am part of the G-Men. I am part of the Grindation. And this is the man who began it all. If you want to change your life for the better, become a part of a community like this one. It's like you've never seen before. It's actual brotherhood, and it's impactful. It takes you out of your comfort zone, and it makes you want to be a better man. Thank you for listening. As always, reach out to me on Instagram at Beyond Willpower Podcast, or send me an email at beyondwillpowerandstrength@gmail.com. And we'll talk again soon. Thank you once again, and we'll talk soon.